It all began with a curse, one that gripped a forgotten village hidden in the shadow of the mountains. A name few have heard, and even fewer wish they did. Once you learn its story, it follows you forever. It was a place lost to time, deep in the mountains, where the darkest secrets of the past still linger, waiting to be uncovered. A village forgotten by the world, but not by its haunted history. Some say the land itself remembers every life lost, every wrong left uncorrected. And those who get too close, they might find themselves trapped, unable to leave. Once you enter, can you ever truly escape? Or will the land claim you too? Let me take you back to October 1873, a small, isolated village tucked away in the mountains where war had torn through the land. A civil war so brutal it left behind more than just bloodshed. It left secrets, terrible secrets. In the dead of night, 6 loyal soldiers, desperate to keep their general's death a secret, brought the body of General Callis to the village. They buried him deep in the cemetery beneath the soil, in a place that would never be found. Their plan was clear. His burial would stay hidden forever. Days passed. Weeks later, 5 enemy soldiers stormed into the village, convinced that General Callis was hiding there. They'd heard whispers, rumors of his survival, and they were determined to find him. They threatened to burn the village to the ground unless someone spoke, but no one would. Then, one old man, trembling, stepped forward. His voice barely above a whisper, he said, "General Callis is dead, buried behind the chapel." The soldiers demanded proof, but the old man couldn't say exactly where Callis had been buried. So, they forced the villagers to dig up every grave. One by one, the shovels hit the earth, unearthing the dead. Their rotting bodies rose from the ground, filling the air with a stench of decay that clung to everything. It was unbearable. But then, as the croaking of frogs from a nearby pond grew louder, the soldier in charge snapped. Furious, he raised his pistol and fired into the water. The frogs fell silent for a moment. Then they began croaking again, louder, almost mocking him. In a blind rage, he spun around, and there it was, an untouched grave, marked only by a simple line. A villager, hesitant, spoke up. "That belongs to a woman who died last month. Some say she was a witch." The soldiers demanded the grave be dug up. The villagers hesitated, but they did as they were told. And when they opened the coffin, a chilling silence fell over the cemetery. Inside was the body of a woman, or what should have been. Her skin was pale, untouched by decay. Her cheeks still held a faint blush, her lips parted, as if she had simply fallen asleep. But the worst part, her eyes were wide open, staring, watching, and they didn't blink. The soldiers, exhausted and furious from their failure to find Callis, left the woman's body where it lay and walked away. And then, everything went still. The frogs stopped croaking, the wind died, the entire village seemed to hold its breath. The soldiers, content with their twisted vengeance, left the village, but they didn't know what they had just unleashed. The villagers returned to bury the dead, but when they went to return the woman's body to the grave, something was wrong. They hit something hard beneath the soil. They dug deeper, and what they found sent chills down their spines. It was the body of General Callis, buried in secret. The soldiers had hidden him beneath her grave, hoping no one would disturb it. And from that moment, the village was cursed. Crops withered, livestock died, people disappeared without a trace, and the village, once alive with life, slowly decayed, until by the mid-20th century, it was abandoned, left to rot and haunt anyone who dared to come near. But that wasn't the end. No, it wasn't. Because some things don't stay buried forever. In 1999, Elena and her friends decided to visit the ruins of the abandoned village. They had heard the rumors, the ghost stories, but none of them were prepared for what would happen next. They arrived ready for an adventure, walking through the overgrown cemetery. Elena, distracted by the eerie atmosphere, knocked over a small, weathered headstone marked with that same familiar line. And that's when it happened. A sudden gust of wind howled through the trees. Elena turned, calling out to her husband, who had wandered off to forage for mushrooms. But when she called, there was no answer. Panic set in. She couldn't find him. Neither could Victor or Isabel. The fog grew thicker. The air turned colder. The croaking of frogs, like a cruel omen, filled the air once again. But it was louder. Much louder. Then it stopped. The whole village fell silent. Elena began to weep. She clutched her husband's wicker basket in her hands, her face pale, stricken with terror. "He's gone," she whispered. Despite a week-long search, he was never found. He vanished without a trace, as if the land itself had swallowed him whole. 3 months later, Elena, Victor, and Isabel returned, determined to uncover the truth. As they passed the ruined chapel, they saw 6 cloaked figures standing in a circle within the ruins. At first, they thought they were paranormal investigators, but as Elena approached, one of them turned, and it had no face, only darkness, pure, suffocating darkness. They ran. But behind them they could hear it, galloping, thunderous hooves. They turned, expecting to see a horse and rider, but there was nothing, only mist and shadows. And when they looked back, the figures were gone. They never returned to the ruins. And Elena's husband, he was never found. But he wasn't the last to disappear, and the locals still fear this place. Remember, not all curses stay buried.